Let's go to John Cummings, our Disruptor series. John challenging AOC in the 14th District of New York. That's in the Bronx in Republican primary. Tell you a little bit about John before he gets on. Couple key facts here. He's a high school government teacher, a retired New York City cop, and he's also, like me, a sports broadcaster who does play-by-play for both radio and TV. He formally entered the race for New York's 14th in mid-July. Hey, John, great to have you with us, man.
John, thank you for having me this morning.
What an interesting background. Cop, high school teacher, does play-by-play. What inspired you to get in this race? I mean, there's already a couple of GOP candidates in there. Why not just give it to them?
I really was pushed by my students, and my students have been after me for a long time to get into it. You know, when you speak about government on a daily basis for as long as I have, eventually the students say, hey, Mr. Cummings, why don't you get into this? And I never really took it that seriously because I would have been going up against an incumbent, Joe Crowley, who was a very powerful congressman. It would have been, I think, extremely difficult to take him out. But then once Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez defeated him in a primary, basically primaried him out, they pointed out to me, my students did it, hey, you know, you could do this. You know, she obviously came from behind the bar. You can come out of the classroom and run against her.
Well, look,
so here I am.
I just want to ask you, this is a heavily Democratic district. You've got, I think, several Republicans now vying for the nomination. So the first thing you have to do is be the nominee. So before we get to AOC, you've got a couple of candidates in there now. How do you become the nominee? How do you win?
I think you just have to go out and have a solid message to the middle class. And it's a very working class district. It's 65% of the district is in Queens and 35% of it is in the Bronx. And as you mentioned, the Amazon deal is certainly important to all of this. I really look forward to getting out into the community, especially in the Queens part of the district, and asking parents of now teenagers, kids between 14 and 18, if you just go to that audience and say, hey, look, what would life have been like for your children had the Amazon deal gone through? What would the opportunities have been for them? And that's something, I think that's a point that has to be made. The other point that has to be made, at least for me, is that I have lived and or worked in that district my entire life. I'm 59 years old. As I said, I was a police officer for 8.5 years. I'm going into my 22nd year of teaching in a couple of weeks. I know the people in the district. Our slogan is I am you, because I am everybody in that district. Mm-hmm. I work where they work. I shop where they shop. I go to the doctor where they go to the doctor. I sit in the traffic that they sit in. I know that district. I mean, I've been in it for my entire life. So I think that I can better serve it than anybody else that's lining up to run against Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, simply because of the fact that I've been there my entire life. And I'm a person of service. I mean, I've spent more than half my life serving the people of the community. I just like to serve them in a different capacity in the United States House of Representatives.
All right, let me ask you this, John Cummings, candidate for Congress, 14th District, part of our Disruptor series. When you were a cop, was that your beat? Was your beat in the district?
Initially, part of it, I was a little south of there initially. I don't know if you know how well you know the Bronx. I graduated from the police academy back in 1983, and I was down in the South Bronx initially, and I was in the West Bronx. So I was in a neighboring district. I did serve in the community briefly. I worked in the Harbor Patrol, which is the Marine unit, the rescue unit, and we served all of the waterfront of that district. But like I said, I've been a person of service my entire life, and I'll put my record of service up against anybody who's running currently for that spot to run against Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez.
When are you going door to door? I mean, because you said in your press release you were going to maintain your teaching job. Running for Congress sometimes can be a very taxing thing. You got to knock on doors. You got to talk to a lot of people. How do you teach school, broadcast Fairfield football and basketball like you do, and run for Congress? How do you do all those things?
Well, I'm going to have to find the time, obviously, because I'm not a person I'm not a person who has a lot of personal wealth. I also enjoy the teaching part of it, but we are out at a reasonable time every day. I'm not usually out of the building by 2:30, 2:45, And I think there's plenty I can do in the early afternoon. And then obviously most of the community meetings that I need to get to are in the evening, usually around 7 o'clock. I do basketball. Well, Fairfield got rid of football several years ago, so that's out. So my Saturdays are clear. But, I'm a person who's worked a lot of jobs my entire life. I've always worked 2, 3, or 4 jobs. And I think there's a lot of people in the district who can relate to that. There's many of us in the working class, the working middle class, that work plenty of jobs, especially to live in New York with the high cost of living. So I'm not really concerned about the time at all.
All right. So as you're talking to people about your race and AOC, you're in a district that Hillary Clinton carried by 58 points. Just to put this in perspective, 58 points she carried the district by. So this is a very Democratic district. It's D plus 50, probably one of the highest ones that even have a race in it. But when you're talking to people, John Cummings, what are they saying about AOC? I mean, is that because you start with a 58-point deficit? I mean, that's like being down by 35 going into the fourth quarter of a high school basketball game, right? I mean, you're down big. What are people saying?
Well, she's not as popular in the district as the national media would make you think. She is not really interested, in my opinion, in the local politic part of this at all. She's not interested in representing the people of the district. She's much more interested in creating a national profile. I think she's done a very good job of that, obviously, for better or for worse. But she's not interested in the district. Her term is almost a third up, and she hasn't even sent out a newsletter yet. There's been no mailing from her office at all to let us know what's going on. I really don't think she's that familiar with the district. So her ratings in the district are not as high as people think. And I think the way that I have to go out and speak to these people, a lot of the people that live in the district are working class union people. They either work for they're in the hospital industry, health and hospitals. They work for the city, so they're municipal employees. They're all union people, and they are led by union leaders who have spent a great deal of time and energy in getting these people the best health insurance that they can get. And a lot of these people are very happy with their health insurance. They're working class people, but they appreciate the health insurance package that they have. And that's all gone if we go to socialized medicine. It's gone right away. So why would these people, and of course, you'll have the pleasure of paying probably 20 to 25% higher taxes to pay for that. Why would these people who are going to vote, they're very active, why would these people go out and flip the switch for her knowing that they're going to lose their benefits and pay a higher tax payment?
And they've already lost.
They will.
And John, they've already lost all those jobs at Amazon. Like for us that don't live in the Bronx, and I've worked there because I grew up in New York City for a time, but you look back at this and you say to yourself, how does somebody survive when they kicked out 20,000 jobs out of their district? Like, how do working class people vote for her again? Forget her policies, forget the social media following, forget the progressive agenda, the new Green Deal, and all that fancy stuff she has. When you go to voters and you say, I kicked 20,000 jobs out of your district with an average income of $150,000, I ran them off. How do you get reelected?
Yeah, and that's the Queens part of the district. Like I said, 65% of the district is in Queens, and that's right where Amazon would have located in Long Island City. And it wasn't just, John, the 20 to 25,000 jobs that Amazon was going to provide. You had a lot of mom and pop businesses that had already started to expand their businesses and took a bath once Amazon pulled out. You also had all of the other service industry jobs that would have been created around that. All of the Verizon jobs, the phone company, the Con Edison jobs, just the construction jobs. I mean, it wasn't just those Amazon jobs. It would have been a tremendous boom for the economy there in Queens, and we could always use that. I mean, the economy is obviously chugging along at a really good rate. Unemployment in the Bronx and Queens is very reasonable. I think it's around 6% right now, which if you go back to the 80s when I was a police officer, in the area where I worked as a police officer back in the 80s, unemployment was 25%. So now it's 6% or so. But still, those opportunities to move onward and upward were right there for the taking. And Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and her followers, they just put the kibosh on it, and we lost not just those Amazon jobs, but all of that economic buzz that would have been created by it. And I think that's a big selling point for me.
John, I just can't see how people are going to turn around and vote for somebody that ran off, like you said, 20,000 jobs from Amazon and probably another, 10,000 jobs from companies that would go in there in support of what Amazon was doing. You're talking about 25, 30 some odd thousand jobs that she just kicked out. I mean, in any other environment, you could not survive that. Democrat, Republican, regardless of what, if it's D plus 50 or R plus 50. I mean, think about it, John Cummings. In any other environment, when you did that as a federal representative, there is no way on earth you would be able to survive, because what you do when you come back to your district is tout the jobs you're trying to bring in, the opportunity you're trying to bring in, the legislation that you did to get people better environment, better work, better benefits, right? I mean, that's what you tout as a candidate. She has to go there and tout the exact opposite. I ran off 30,000 jobs. How she survives is beyond me.
I think you'll always have the people that will vote for her simply because of the popularity that she has somehow gleaned in the community. But like I said, that's a very slippery slope for her because she's not as popular as she thinks. She is well received in the areas that she goes to, but she handpicks those areas. So she knows that there's strengths for her. But as I said, when you get out into the working part of the community, when you speak to the people, when you speak to the business owners in particular, the business owners in Queens and in the Bronx are going to strongly reject what she has sold. And I think that's going to be a big part of it, too. You know, when it comes time, as you said, when it comes time to get out there, you know, door to door and getting out to these community meetings, but when it comes time to do the old, hey, we're going to put some campaign signs in the doors of these businesses, she's going to get turned away quite a bit because they know what she did for the business community in the district.
Let's get to the Republican nomination. I'm fascinated that it's got competition with a district that is, you know, D plus 58. You have a Republican opponent. She's been on our show several times. A sharp young lady. Why are you a better candidate?
Well, as I said, I think the fact that I know the district is key. I've been serving the community and the district at large for 30 years. And as far as I know, there are only two of us who have declared for this race that live in the district, and she's not one of them. So the person that you're talking about, I believe, is Sheree Murray. She doesn't live in the district. Now, obviously, by federal law, you don't have to live in the district. You just have to live in the state. But I don't think that looks good at all, that you're going to come from the outside and tell us how to run our district. I know what this district needs. I know the programs that we need to look into. We have tremendous infrastructure problems in the Bronx and in Queens, and I've come up with quite a few ideas that need to be discussed. We have education problems. Obviously, I know a lot about that because I'm a teacher. I'm a big proponent of school choice and school vouchers because the public schools are failing a lot of young people in our district, and they've done so for decades. These are things that need to be addressed, and you just can't walk in from the outside and know what they are. And that's why I think I'm the best person for the job.
Oh, so what you're saying is one of your opponents in the race, Sheree Murray, who is a Jamaican immigrant who lives in Queens, you're saying she does not live in the district?
No, she does not.
But she's in Queens.
She's in Queens, but she's not. She's in the neighboring district.
All right.
And like I said, there are 7 people that have supposedly declared for this, and to my knowledge, only 2 of us actually right now live in the district.
And that would
we're both lifelong residents of the district, and she's not one of them.
And that would be yourself and the other candidate, who is
Ruth Papazian.
Right.
She's another person who's in the race for the Republican nomination. She lives in the district as well, but as far as I know, everybody else lives outside the district. And to me, that's really important, especially because of the grief that Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez got when she first misrepresented herself as being from the district. As you remember, she lived in the district until she was about 5 years old, and then her parents moved up to Westchester, and she obviously went with them. And she got a lot of grief because people didn't think that she didn't know the district. At least at the time she ran, she was, quote unquote, living in the district. So
right. Well, she was in the district when she ran. Doesn't matter
Yes.
where you grew up, you can still move there. Well, look, I'm fascinated with your campaign. I love what you're doing, John. This is not an easy thing to do, to get in a race like this, obviously, and you've got at least 3 people now that are going to be vying for the Republican nomination to take on AOC. I mean, who would have ever thought that you'd have 3 at least, and there could be others that jump in. So you've got you're going to have a boatload of Republicans. Obviously, you guys are onto something. You must think she's vulnerable. And again, I don't know how you get reelected by running off 30,000 jobs out of your district, high-paying jobs. I don't know how somebody would go back there and say, yes, I want her representing me. Representing me for what? To kick jobs out? It's insane, John. Insane.
Yeah, that's where I think the weakness is, and that's where I think there is the ability to get people to cross over because they realize how divisive that she is. You know, I like to say that whole group of them, it's distract, disrupt, and divide. That's what they do. And the reason that they do it is to try to cover up everything that they're really trying to do, which is a straight-out socialist agenda, which is something I absolutely despise. It's antithetical to everything that we believe in as Americans. And if you'd like to help out, we're at Cummings2020.com. That's Cummings2020.com.
All right, Cummings2020.com. John Cummings, Queens Republican, thanks for being with us. High school teacher, basketball announcer like I am, so we share that in common. And also, John, a former cop in the district, and he is running for the Republican nomination to square off against AOC in 2020. John, good luck with your campaign. We'll be following it. We'll have you back. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for the time.